Amazing times in Major League Baseball and for the Twins. Spring training games are starting. The Twins play a game Saturday. Testing for the automatic strike zone is starting. ESPN and MLB are ending, and so is the Yankees' no beard policy. Hey, it's all kind of a lot, so don't go worrying and make all your hair fall out. Just get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the vast Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer since before these ball players could grow hair on their chinny chin chins. I'm also a BBWAA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace's Brandon Warren, a Twins writer who was once a Twins fan before that, and today is a Twins fan again. And it all kind of meshes together. Today, anyway, he's the site expert at Puckett's Pond, a blog about the Twins. You should check out Brandon's written work and mine at Puckett's Pond to supplement your Locked On Twins coverage. Today's podcast will replay review, if you will, the Twins tinkering with MLB's ABS system. That's not automatic breaks. That's the automatic ball and strike review that's being tested in spring training. We'll also talk about one of my favorite topics. It isn't really. MLB's national TV baloney, this time with ESPN reportedly pulling the plug on its $500 million deal with Rob Manfred. Nice job, Manfred. We'll also talk about some of the great Twins beards in history in our memories, anyway, because the Yankees announced they're ending their no beard policy after more than 50 years. Actually, it's not more than, I should have edited that back. It's 49 years, amending it into a nice beard policy. Nice beard, Felvey. There's also real things going on at Twins camp, like Austin Martin trying to figure it all out. And MLB interviewed Derek Falvey. I don't know. Is there anything in there? Well, maybe we'll get to it. Before we jump in and trim your faces so they adhere to policy, we need to inform you that this episode of Locked On Twins is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers, new ones that is, can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Brandon, one of the newest Twins acquisitions is already paid off. I don't mean they've already paid his contract. Harrison Bader got overturned a strike call in batting practice using MLB's new semi-automatic ball strike challenge system. The umpire, Twins great Michael Kadire, so it's all in the up and up, was wrong. So Bader got a pitch back, and he hit the next one for a home run. The early buzz is really positive on the ABS system, overwhelmingly so. Certainly among the major leaguers who haven't experienced it since similar to the one that they've been using in the low minor since 2022 and since 2023 in AAA. What is your first impression of the Twins' first impression of ABS?
Well, and I saw some writer, I can't remember who now, said that they're already on board with it. And, it took all of one day of spring training games to be like, you know what, or not even games, just no, it was games because it was the Max Muncy one. It was the first game.
It's both, yeah. They used it in a game and they used it in the Twins just used it in batting practice. But just because of batting practice, they're on board already. You're right.
So I saw it in use at CHS Field last year with the Saints playing. And honestly, I think it got used once or twice. Didn't slow the game at all because the actual decision is displayed on the big board and it's almost instantaneous. And honestly, the only negatives I can think of again are going to be the unintended consequences. The one I saw on video ended a game. And if there's one out and a player steals a base and then there's a replay review of a strike, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it because classic overthinker, obviously, as you can tell. I think there could be some unintended consequences that we are maybe not considering yet that could make it messy. But ultimately, at the end of the day, AAA probably would have found some of those by now, right? And so in general, though, definitely in favor. And it just comes down to I want strikes to be strikes, balls to be balls, and that part of the game to be less of a, kind of like a propping yourself up afterwards saying, well, they lost because of the umpires. Well, they're going to try to take that away, take that out of the game, and we'll see what happens.
I think Byron Buxton is thinking how you're thinking. I saw some quotes from him. He was kind of wondering, well, what happens when your challenges go bad and you run out of challenges, or if you do one and it doesn't work and then you're out of challenges and you kind of get screwed, then what? How do you overcome that mentally? And he's like, well, it's just, it's another change in the game, another recent one. There have been a few, as fans know, from the pitch clock to other things. There's a whole list. And Buxton's like, well, it's just a matter of the players getting themselves mentally prepared for being disappointed by something else. I mean, he wasn't looking at it in a negative way, but he's looking at it in a pragmatic, realistic way. So they are thinking kind of like how you're thinking.
The way I look at it too, we've had players with like the automatic strike called because they weren't in the box and engaged in time. And they adjusted to that. So, I mean, I think the adjustment period, the adjustment curve, so to speak, would be shorter because it's strikes and balls as opposed to, not that it's arbitrary, but there have been times, that the hitter's like, I was in the box, I was engaged, and been upset about a strike called. This is going to be a little more black and white, a little more definite. So I think the adjustment period would be pretty short, like a couple months. I mean, I don't know how long would you say that the adjustment period was for the automatic strike, automatic ball for pitchers and hitters? I thought that was pretty fast too after using it in spring training.
Well, after you get burned by it, you kind of learn quickly. It's kind of like training a pet, sort of, not to diminish these ball players, their mentality, but I mean, anybody would be in that situation or a child, once you insert some discipline in your life, and then, you do better from then on. So I think I like the idea of getting the calls right. One thing that I like about this is that it seems to be player controlled. It's not something that comes from the bench. You mentioned how quickly it goes. I've always been impressed. I think one of the low key amazing things about about major league hitters mostly, is that they know when something's a strike. Like that to me is one of the hardest things to know in baseball. And I think that's why, you kind of wonder, well, why doesn't this guy walk more? It's hard to tell what's in the zone and what isn't, and, committing and so forth. It's amazing to me that you can be standing where you are and, not like behind the pitcher or in the pitcher's view of things. It's not surprising to me. Like if Paul Skeens were out there and did a, I'm going to appeal this because it was a strike. Well, no, you're looking right at it. I would imagine that you would get that right most of the time. The batters in the box have a kind of a skewed, offset view of things, and it's amazing to me how often they're right about pitches being strikes or not being strikes, and at least as according to the boxes we see it. So I think that is going to be kind of a cool part of this, that the hitters who are good at knowing what a strike is, the ones who are going to be able to get the strikes, and the ones that don't are going to struggle knowing when to do their challenge. So
I have two thoughts here. This could save Edouard Julien's career.
I need more walks. How can I get to first? I can't hit the off speed, so
I foul off the off speed and I take the walk. That was more Italian, I think. And then so it's only players. It's not manager or coach initiated.
Actually, I don't know for a fact that that's true. Other than
sorry to put you on the spot there, but
I think the player has to do it. But maybe he can be like the bench. But how is Rocco's not going to know? Unless he's watching it on the iPad, and they're not going to get it. It's not like replay where you check with the guy upstairs.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And you're not allowed to watch it during the game anyway, are you? I think with the whole Astros business that got the kibosh put on it. So I think you're right. That's a really great point. Who's going to know better? And then it might come down to like, does the hitter look at the manager? The manager gives him a thumbs up to say, yeah, it's okay to challenge. There'll be layers to that too, because I mean, if Edouard Julien doesn't think it's a strike versus if Willie Castro doesn't think it is a strike, I mean, that's two very different plate discipline guys.
For sure. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's utilized. I think is Julien going to have to use up? Does he become more valuable now because he knows what's up with the strike zone? And Rocco's like, I got to put him out there because nobody else knows what a strike is. But it's funny too. It sort of plays into our next thing, which our next segment, our next topic, which we'll get into in a moment. ESPN and MLB kind of breaking up. By the time they have this thing implemented, ESPN's not going to be around probably to be televising it. So that's sort of my lead into the next thing. And we'll talk about ESPN and MLB breaking up after this message.
NBA is back in full swing, second half of the season, unofficial second half, because they've actually played like 50 some games. So it's not exactly half. It's kind of like baseball that way. But when the game tips off, for instance, my T-Wolves playing this evening, the NBA action, though, is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. So if you've got that second and third quarter lull and you hit the first quarter and the fourth quarter, that still can be very productive for you. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, I would check out the same game parlay feature. That's where you can combine your live bets. If you are, you're riding a heat check, you can put together a pretty nice little string there, all in the same game. Right now, though, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's new customers on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Brandon, I don't like to talk about things like Major League Baseball's TV deal and that kind of stuff because I don't have good solutions handy. All I can do is sort of complain along with everyone else.
Yeah.
I will say that it seems like this is kind of for the things that the owners would think that Manfred has done as commissioner, of the positive things that they would like. This seems to be his Achilles heel, his the inability to secure the future of the league in terms of a national TV broadcast. I think he's kind of on the right track as far as the local, the regional stuff. But I don't know how much I can criticize him because trying to figure out how to make TV contracts profitable is like second only to trying to figure out how to make like newspapers profitable. It is a conundrum for lots of people who are, I'm sure Rob Manfred's really smart and a tough negotiator and all that for all the things that I disagree with him about. It's hard for anybody to do this. And it seems like with ESPN announcing that they're breaking free of MLB, that means $550 million each of the next 3 seasons is going to have to come from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, MLB's not willing to take like a smaller amount to be on a shrinking program. Manfred got that dig in with this letter that he sent to all the other owners. Do you have an initial take on this?
Do you think that the number of games and the length of the season conspires against them? Because you see national football games on, NBC's got Sunday Night Football, ABC, CBS, like they've all had football or like big time sporting events, but they're sports that don't oversaturate the market. Is it just hard to carry interest in MLB for, 30 Sunday nights a year? They used to do Sunday night and then was it Wednesday night baseball? I think they did too. And that's kind of my introduction to John Miller, who's tremendous, and Joe Morgan. So I wonder about if the number of games hurts them. Did you see, by the way, Gary? I think it's Gary Stryeski is how you say his name. Did a tour of the Baseball Tonight graveyard the other day. I don't know if he was on TikTok or what he was, but he kind of like does some socials for ESPN, and it was reminiscent of those days. He goes through and sees like the old set and all that stuff is still there. To hear ESPN getting out of the baseball business altogether just makes it that much sadder that Baseball Tonight, went by the wayside. Beyond that, is it foolish to say MLB Network should be taking on these national rights? Is there not enough money? Is it not distributed well enough? Because I don't think every cable package includes it. I'm not positive about that.
You hear a lot of people complain about not being able to see MLB Network, certainly easily.
Well,
there are ways to do it, but it's not like everybody can turn the TV on and figure out how to do it. It sounds like maybe a little bit of a boomer problem, but it's real.
How much does it matter too that it's a league entity, and so they wouldn't be relying on another party to fill their coffers, so to speak. Or I don't know. I mean, the financial aspect of it is what I assume is going to drive it one way or the other. It's not going to be about logistics. It's not going to be about ESPN necessarily saying we don't want baseball anymore. They just don't want it at the number that it's set up for. So I don't know. I mean, again, I have a lot of kind of stray thoughts, and I suspect you can maybe help me corral them.
The
Maybe?
owner, maybe. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Sorry, there was like a video glitch at some point, and I just
Oh.
wondered if we got, you know, I had wondered if somehow we had gotten cut off from each other, but
We're all good.
we're still together. Yeah, well, this is sort of what I'm talking about. Like, it seems like this is above my pay grade a little bit, trying to figure this out. The owners are going to want the money. That's what they're going to want. They're not really that worried about like the long-term health of baseball or the long-term security of having a $500 million a year deal with ESPN. You know, is there a $500 million coming now? You know, they're more worried about that.
Maybe
And
if you're Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, really. You know, it's funny. You asked about, you know, is there too much baseball in a way, and does that work against him? It probably does devalue it in some way in terms of just the anticipation of it. The football, for all of its attempts to get at least one game on every day of the week, kind of like baseball. Funny how they're doing that. It does, you know, the mentality of the football fan is, well, I can't wait for Sunday, you know, and that's a few days from now. Baseball, it's like, oh, we got another game today. Great. You know, let's go out and get it. So there's always a baseball game going on with very few exceptions. So you don't have that, you know, you are not left wanting for baseball once the season starts very often.
My recommendation to grow the game, though, would be that every team has a minimum number of nationally televised games. Because I'm sick of seeing Yankees Red Sox on Sunday night or Fox Saturday baseball. Again, I know those are what pay the bills, and that's probably why my idea is just foolish. But I shouldn't have to have enough people know who Mike Trout is because he plays on the West Coast. And so his games start when most people are going to bed. And then another thing, too. So one thing I don't like about politics, and I'm not getting political, but I don't like when people say something's not working, but they don't offer a solution. But I think it works here for you and me, where it's like, yeah, the way MLB is set up for distribution of the product globally, or at least in the States, is extremely inefficient, if not outright just bad. And so I again, my idea, minimum number of games for each team on national TV, you know, get MLB fans to know who Yuri Perez is, or, you know, if Lawrence Butler takes off for the A's, like they think he might continue to do, you know, people should know these guys' names. And that's my idea is, you know, if every team gets 5 nationally televised games a year at minimum, that would be one way to get those names out there.
Thank you for mentioning this. And it goes back sort of unfortunately to, I think, the point about baseball that is true, and in a way kind of always has been, and in a way is becoming more and more this way, is that people like it regionally. People, you know, Royals fans like to watch the Royals, and Twins fans like to watch the Twins. You know, there are exceptions to this. There's exceptions to, you know, when fans will want to watch the national team, and there's also, you know, exceptions where the opposite is true. So I think that, you know, your idea about having a certain number of, let's say, A's games or Pirates games on national TV, I don't know how much that's going to move the needle, just because I don't know how much people in Seattle care.
If it was going to, it would take a while. Like it would be a 3 to 5 year process.
Yeah, you're right. You know, if Major League Baseball marketed its stars in a different way, maybe after a number of years, we would see kind of a change in how that feeling about baseball is. But it's not, you know, it's not necessarily a national game in that way. It's more like a national game that's a regional game. So I think that is, and that goes back to what part of the problem here is, why the ratings aren't necessarily great for even the All-Star game, or, you know, we complain about the ratings being down for the World Series. Usually it goes back to this bit about how fans in cities where the team isn't playing and that they don't necessarily care enough to watch. So I think that is part of why baseball's having a hard time selling it. Well, even more so than the number of games, that fact is staring them in the face.
There's an old Twins White Sox game. I think it's like September of 1993, and they're talking about Frank Thomas being an MVP candidate, Kirby Puckett having another great year. And when I was a kid, ESPN was channel 13, and we had channels 3 through, I mean, it grew every now and then, but it was like 15 and then 17. This was the only show in town if you wanted to watch baseball that night outside of maybe the Cubs on WGN, maybe the Braves on the Superstation. And eyes are more divided now than they've ever been. You've got people watching Reels, TikToks, Facebook, or Instagram, shorts or whatever they call all of those. That is pulling eyeballs. The fact that there's a million channels at your disposal at any given moment, a million streaming services that have, I mean, you could watch the Golden Girls every minute of every day. And just a random observation, do with it what you will. Our eyes are divided. And so there's a lot of things conspiring against people sitting down and watching a game that is still, for all intents and purposes, 2 hours and 50 to 3 hour, 2 hours, 50 minutes to 3 hours long. So there are realities that are difficult to navigate. And it comes back to some things are not working, but I don't have a solution.
So what's this going to lead to? Probably less revenue. And then, a drag on salaries and profits and, maybe a work stoppage,
Well, yeah, at least they're not already
exacerbating that.
Yeah, at least we're not already bracing ourselves for a work stoppage in a year and a half or 2 years or whatever it is. It's after next year, right?
A couple of, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe it. A couple of possibilities here. Amazon will step forward, or maybe Apple.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get more Roku, although Roku paid like $75 for its baseball package. It wasn't very much. I saw an analogy. Well, what Roku paid for its games, you could pay half the salary of a rookie player. So great, one rookie player.
Sobering.
For what each team gets out of that cut.
Yeah.
So maybe we've already got Roku and Roki and Rinku. Remember Rinku and Dinesh, and we have Ringo from the Beatles.
Maybe
Manfred will get a little help from his friends, and MLB will just televise it all themselves, like you say.
Who are Rinku and Dinesh? I don't remember that.
You don't remember Rinku and Dinesh? They made the movie about him. The guys from India who tried out.
So it was $1 Million Arm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, $1 Million Arm. Yeah,
I couldn't remember their names off the top of my head.
I like the adding Rinku because it's similar to Roki and Roku, so it's
perfect.
It all dovetails. Speaking of dovetailing, we're going to dovetail our way to our second and final break. And when we do return, we'll talk about facial hair.
Well, Dave, we got to talk about these nuts because looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. It's one of the highest protein nuts you can find. Again, wonderful pistachios. It's not just a name. It's also what you're going to get. You'll get an ounce serving with 6 grams of protein. That's over 10% of your daily recommended value, plus packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel full longer. As I've been saying with this ad, we keep a bag on the bedside table. I told my wife that I've been telling people that, and she was mortified, but it's true. If I could take my camera here, I could show you. We have it's about a half bag now that we picked up at Walmart, and just a tremendous bedtime snack that you don't have to feel guilty about because it's nutritious. And I do the shell versions, the ones in shell. I find that I eat fewer of them, but also it takes longer. It's just better for me to have my pistachio consumption metered. You're just gonna have to trust me on this one. But you can get snackin and get crackin with the snack that packs a protein punch, whether it's shelled or unshelled. Both are available. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com.
Well, I'm glad you're not half in the bag with your half bag of pistachios, Brandon.
It's a glass. It's a bag half empty, I think, because you got to start planning for the next one by the time you get to that point.
Brandon, first the Berlin Wall falls, and now this. The Yankees have changed their no beard policy. established by King George 49 years ago, 1976. Hal made a statement today. After lots of consulting, I paraphrase that part, we will be amending our expectations. He's always going to do that, to allow our players and uniformed personnel to have well-groomed beards moving forward. It is the appropriate time to move beyond the familiar comfort of our former policy. Hal wants a disciplined look, so that contract extension that Brett Boone just signed, he's going to earn it by making sure. Did I say Brett? Well, maybe Brett Boone signed one too. That manager Aaron Boone signed.
He's doing a podcast, I think, actually.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, great.
He's going to earn that money. He's going to make sure Devin Williams' beard is not too long.
They did him dirty. They did him dirty.
They did.
They
did. Oh,
it's not Darnell McDonald, but it's pretty bad.
In fact, I have that noted. This was from The Athletic, I believe. New Yankees closer Devin Williams showed up to report day with a full beard, took team pictures with noticeable facial hair, and wasn't happy about needing to shave. Now he won't have to worry about it moving forward. No, except now he's going to grow the beard back. And sometimes, when you shave your head or whatever, you don't know always how the hair is going to come back. Sometimes it's thicker, sometimes it's
a gamble.
Wavier.
It's like produce. Gamble.
If it comes back, sometimes it won't come back. So it's like, oh, sorry, Devin. Oh, well. But Cal wanted to make sure, he said this out loud too. He's like, I don't want to hear about any players not wanting to join the Yankees because of this policy. If I found out that we ever cost ourselves a player because of this hair policy, and then I don't remember what he said after that, but something like, I could never forgive myself. That would be bad. It's very concerning. Very, very concerning.
Does this change if Vlad would have signed an extension with the Blue Jays? Because here's the deal. I know Vlad would prefer not to play for the Yankees. It's not quite Ken Griffey Jr. Disdain, I don't think, but I still think he's against it.
Did they not let him on the field too to take batting practice?
That's just worse. But with that said, like if Vlad signs an extension, as opposed to they want to probably go after him next off season, meaning you'd have to overturn the policy now. Some people connected those dots. I think it's a little too convenient. Now, with that said, too, a fun thing I thought of: who do you think is the most likely to test this rule by growing a poorly groomed beard? Because I got I think 5-1 odds on Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, really, especially with his
he'll have a half beard
quality. Yeah, something's out of Hunger Games. One of those. See all the weird facial hair at Hunger Games, or it's probably something that you haven't seen. But there are these movies, Brandon, where people in the future, the dystopian future, have weird facial hair. That's what I mean. And he seems like Marcus Stroman would be a good candidate for that. So I wanted to tie this in, though, to the Twins, because this is not Locked on Yankees or Yankees beards. But I wanted to remember some of the best Twins beards. Currently, I would say Rocco and Pablo, they don't have a lot on top, but they do have really nice beards. I think they would, especially Pablo, the Yankees would be absolutely for whatever he's got in his face, and maybe Rocco too. Yeah. Of course, classically speaking, Jeff Reardon, and I have him here. I want to show, if people don't remember what Jeff Reardon looks like. That's Jeff Reardon. That was a classic beard in the 80s. He came in, he was the Terminator, and the Yankees would want to terminate his face. But now he could I think he did play for the Yankees at one time without a beard, and now he could go back and do that again. This, I had memory hold this. Does anybody remember who's this guy? I don't remember Joe Mauer having a beard, but he does, according to this. So
yeah, it's not bad. I don't think it was his best look, but it was solid. One of my underrated beards is Christian Guzman. And what's funny is the Twins used to have really good commercial department when they were in the Metrodome and just fighting to stay alive. And they had a commercial about Guzman, and it was like, how fast is he? Well, he makes the $6 million man sound, the that speed. But they said he's known for his speed, his defense, and his little beard. And then they put an arrow to it, and he's got a tiny little just the least bit of, it's not stubble, it's an actual beard, but it's just tiny. And so we see you out there, Christian Guzman's little beard.
Sort of on that note, Twins fan Shayla mentioned that Nelson Cruz and Eddie Rosario, their beards could fit together like puzzle pieces. I guess they complemented each other well in terms of facial hair.
Boy, that's
I don't
an
have
inside reference. Wow.
I don't see anything wrong with it. But
No, I mean, like
have,
it's just something not everyone would notice. You know, like
no.
I noticed one time the bats that were coming out of the clubhouse by the authenticator, and one of them had a knob on it that was an axe bat. And I said, who does that belong to? And so she told me Kurt Suzuki, and I wrote a whole story on an axe bat. I got to be the first one with that story because I saw it. Some of those things are hard to see unless you're really looking for them.
That's a good point. You're right. It's not hard to see Sergio Romo's beard. I think this would this violate the Yankees' nice beard policy? I think it might.
Have you ever seen his shirt that says "I only look illegal"?
You can't print that.
No,
it was so funny.
It was so funny. It was, and I think it was at the World Series, one of the even year World Series parades.
That's really funny and perhaps poignant these days.
Yeah. Well.
We have more to talk about than we have time, so maybe we'll do more shows today. I don't know.
Hey,
depends on Brandon. What are you doing? I don't know.
Well, it's my birthday tomorrow.
It is. We could celebrate early by doing another show.
Hooray!
But that's going to do it for this one. Jake Cave also had a good beard. And Dallas Keuchel, of course, is the Twins. I think made him, or the White Sox when Dallas Keuchel was on the White Sox, they made him trim it a little bit. The White Sox also had like a junior Yankees policy about kind of like the new policy. They only nice beards, not scruffy beards.
And Cave's beard was trippy because it was different colors.
Oh, really? Well,
it was great.
White Sox killer at one time, Jake Cave. Although the overall numbers don't bear that out, but it seemed like it. That's what I remember. Anyway, for Brandon, this is Dave wishing you all a very pleasant good evening. Saying we will Alexei Casilla tomorrow night.